Okay, hi everyone. Here's a little suggestion. I encourage you to take out a little sketchbook if you have one and do it along with whatever comes to you, horrifying or not. Welcome to The Art of Demon Making, talk by me, Benjamin E. Just a quick content warning. There are topics of horror, asphyxiation, drowning, violation that will be briefly mentioned. I will not be staying in them for too long. Imagery of blood, self-harm, and frightening imagery will be shown throughout the talk. Some images may be evocative, but never explicit. There are no jump scares in this talk, because I fucking hate that shit. All right, ready to go. Hi everyone, my name is Benjamin E. I'm the art director for Summerfall Studios. We worked on games such as Stray Gods the Role-Playing Musical, the DLC, Orpheus. If you haven't played it, you should. It's a good time. And now we're working on Malys, which is out now in early access. Pop off. I'm also in freelance illustrator for Daggerheart, Chaosium, and more famously, Magic the Gathering. I'm a self-proclaimed emo, community-voted theater kid, and honorary goth. So, in other words, a verified, dramatic, dark little child. Woo! Darkness! And this is the game, Malys. We launched it in early access. It's still going. We're doing some more updates. It's a horror-inspired roguelite deck builder from the Summerfall team. So there's lots of narrative in there. It's a good time, bing bong. You play as an exorcist named Noah, hunting down and exorcising demons in a bleak city. As art director, I was tasked to come up with the visuals, as well as designing and painting the demons that you'll be seeing today. Sorry, when I get nervous, I do a lot of voices. I've had people come after talks of mine and just be like, what do you actually sound like? And I go, I don't know, you tell me, kid. This is the sort of content structure that we'll be talking about today. These three acts, pain, darkness, and horror. Fuck yeah, goth. First up, the pain. Finding escape in art. This is young Ben. Say hi, young Ben. He's a cheeky little guy. Look at that little half smirk. Very Pixar-coded. But don't be deceived. He suffers greatly. Here's the early influence of edginess in my life. We got Heartless Sora from the Kingdom Hearts. We got Carnage, which is like a fucked up version of Venom. You thought Venom was fucked up? Carnage got your back. We got the game The Darkness, where you play as like a mafia guy who's just inhabited by the darkness, and it just starts eating hearts. Hell yeah. Sasuke over there, we all know, emo king. And Bleach, also emo legend. But what do they all have in common? Well, they harbor suffering deep inside of them. You like that one? This is very vulnerable for me. This is some art that I made when I was in high school. Yes! I made these in my teenage years. Almost every day I was making something, and a lot of the time it was something like this. Everyone, you may relate to the darkness and the pain of being a high schooler, being like, yeah, fuck exams, fuck my parents, fuck adults, they don't understand me. But yes, this is the sort of stuff I was making, just regurgitating any sort of feelings that I had, which I ended up appreciating quite a lot in hindsight. But here's... wow, there's a lot of people I'm showing this. This is a little art piece that I did in my teenage years. If you can't read it, it says, my heart screams in pain, my tears stain the blood, I carve my final scar in memory of you, my love. Good night, may your rest be as pleasant as mine. Fucking crazy. I remember my teacher giving me permission to take this out in the back and splash, like paintbrush splashing blood, like red paint onto out in the back, and I got a lot of red paint on that tree that day. Maybe it's still there. Who knows? But yes, pain was hidden. Pain hidden inside was a very frequent touching point in a lot of the art that I made as a teenager. I'll be forever grateful for having art be introduced into my life so early, because of the vulnerability I allowed myself to share how I felt to the world, and more importantly, to myself. This was one about exams. Damn, going through it. But yes, art was an emotional outlet for me, a faucet for me to release an emotional pain out instead of drowning in it. I do believe that everyone deserves to have this too. I don't think that art should be something limited by skill or anything like that. I think it should be for everyone, because it was so beautiful and helpful for me, and I'm fucking stoked that we can talk more about it and have it be introduced in all of our lives a lot more. But yes, I had a lot of crippling self-esteem issues, still do, but less so. Struggling with handling anger and pain, and struggle to feel seen and understood. I often made very violent self-reflections of myself in my art, such as this one. Look at those jagged teeth. Yo! My mom and even my art teachers would often sometimes ask me, like, hey, this is a lot of dark shit. Can you make something nice for once? And I go, I'll give it a try. And it ended up being really off-putting. Whatever I came out with, they were like, go back, actually. Turn around. So yeah, this is sort of like the sort of art that I was making back in the day. But when I graduated and I started doing more art professionally, and by professionally, I mean like Tumblr commissions, bing bong, still getting money, still getting paid, hell yeah. But I eventually drew less and less horrifying stuff. But I still remained, like to this day, painting a lot of like imagery to express how I feel. Sometimes I feel like a restlessness inside of myself when I'm feeling like an overwhelming amount of emotion. I just have to flood it out there. But it always ends up more sorrowful than anything usually these days. But there you go. But hiding away that sort of like darkness that was inside of me, maintained pretty private until Malys. You can get this hoodie in the merch store. Bing bong, let's go. Plugging it. You're welcome, marketing team. Onto the darkness. Looking into the abyss. This one's straight from the website. I'll just read it out loud. As Noah, former priest turned exorcist and demon hunter, you ride the streets of a festering city in the dead of night. The city teems of demons, and among them lies your prey, Malys, a demon of extraordinary cunning and power. Use your deck to expose the rot within, find unique combinations and strategies to withstand the horrors, help the hopeless and free the possessed, or die in the attempt over and over again. Damn. So this kind of gives you an idea of the sort of pitch that David Gator, our creative director, gave to me. I would take this and I would see what I can come up with the old noggin. Starting off, I knew what I didn't want. I did not want, and I feel very strongly about this, I didn't want demons to be just a really buff guy, you know what I mean? Just a dude who hit the gym and was just like, I'm gonna fucking crush you now. And I get it, because it's like this idea of like, how do you make something look terrifying? Well, have them be very powerful and able to like crush you. It's like, how do you do that? Make them real big and buff. Give them 8 packs, But I knew that's not really what I wanted to do, especially because like demons are such an integral part of the game, and there were multiple of them. I didn't want them to just be like a harem of like sexy dudes with fucking abs and biceps. So we knew hey, that's for another game. But it's not for this one. So I knew that's what I didn't want, and early concepts of what I did go for went for these strange amalgamations for the strangeness' sake. You can see right now there's early iterations for the 3-phase fights that we have in Malys, which eventually became Expose, Endure, and Expel. And here we sort of have this like, demon hiding inside a host, and then eventually, as the fight progresses, they sort of like reach out, being pulled out, exorcist style. So that's where we sort of like ended up going. And eventually, when we did our first like sort of like designs, this is the first one I came up with, demon_spider. Hey, shout out. Not too scary unless you fucking hate spiders. But it pretty much came from the question, what if there was like a skull creature that had just had like spines for legs? Which is pretty scary, but not scary enough. It's good, but not yet horrifying. Then it became this guy. Wouldn't it be disturbing? The question became, wouldn't it be disturbing to see a demon caught in the act of something perverted, but feel nothing at all, not even shame of being caught? It has this really fucked up little feeling inside of you, just like, what is it doing? I'm scared. What the hell? What's its intentions? Because it's just having a little fun plucking some guy. That's the sauce, you see? That's that little hidden feeling that you got inside of just being like, oh, I'm really disturbed and unsettled by this. More than a spider with spine legs, this one got you. The this is not related, but this is a fun little Easter egg that I put in there. If you ever heard of a painting called Saturn Devouring His Son, there he is. See ya. Here's a comic that I saw browsing the internet one day. And it's stuck in my head ever since. It's so absurdly, darkly funny. Because, yeah, this is kind of what this talk is about. I want to talk about reaching into the darkness that's inside all of us. Hell yeah. This is a little blue sky tweet that I made when we first started announcing about the, I believe the Kickstarter? Was it the Kickstarter? Yeah, I think so. But yeah, to get into the mood of Malys, I was listening to a lot of Ethel Cain. Is there anyone Ethel Cain fans in here? Woo! Yeah, fucked up, huh? Yes, here's an album cover from Ethel Cain's Perverts album, which came out this year. The darkness for Malys really came to me when I discovered Ethel Cain's music. This album in particular is just it's called, I think, drone music. So it's essentially just a lot of, and then there's a woman in the background going, I love you, for 13 minutes. And let me tell you, when you're in the office listening to that for 13 minutes, it sounds crazy and you feel crazy. And that's kind of where I was like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff. I remember, the Jessica Lee, who was like working next to me at the time, would just be like, hey, can I get you for something? And I would take off my head and go, yes. What do you need? I've just been in a dark box for 5 hours. And that's the dedication that I have for the arts. But yes, but most of all, there's this one song that really spoke to me. I think people who listen to Ethel Cain know what it is already. I don't know if I pronounced it right, but it's called Ptolemaea. Ptolemaea. If you really want to see the darkness that I was trying to touch, know that I listened to this on repeat. It's not a song that I recommend to pretty much anyone, but if you were interested, let me give you a little content warning and a little spoiler. It's a song about violation. In the song, it's like lots of like dark synth and sounds of flies and someone whispering into the microphone. And throughout the story of the song, the main character is cannibalized and eaten. It's really fucked up, but a really profound window into the darkness of what happens. So, launching off of that, this is what I mean by the darkness. It's stuff that we don't want to talk about, and it's the stuff that we don't want to see. But it is important to talk about, and it is important to see. This little drawing I did was one of the explorations that I did for one of the demons. I just had a really bad day, and I was like, let's see if I can make something really fucked up out of this. And I don't know, do you think that's fucked up? Part of art's strength is the ability to shine a light on the most disgusting and horrible of things. And I think that's beautiful. Speaking of horror, part 3, the horror. The demons that haunt us. Anyone who knows me knows that I fucking hate horror. That shit scares me. I'm a little scaredy cat. It's really bad. I've always been known to be able to dish out a lot of horror. It's like, when it's so fucking scary, check this out, and I go, ew. As soon as a scary thing enters my peripherals, I go, get away from me. Enough. No more. But for this project, again, my commitment to the studio, I decided to really push myself for personal growth as well to watch some horror movies. Here's the movies that I watched to get there. And some of you may be thinking, that's not a horror, it's more of a thriller. I'm going to say, get lost, kid, because it was scary to me. And the way that I did it most of the time was I had a dedicated horror task force who would watch it alongside with me. They'll talk over it. We'd be watching in broad, the lights were on and everything. And then when a scary thing was about to happen, pause. They turn to me, Benjamin, a face is going to come in from the right. They're going to scream really loudly. You ready? And I go, yes. And that's sort of how I did it. And we're getting there. We're getting there. Some other movies, I just was just so foolish. Nosferatu, turns out, damn, scary shit. I just thought it was just like a vibe. It was like a horror vibe, but not really a horror. Scary, immediately. But we got through it. Watching a lot of them, one of my favorite things that came out of this sort of experiment was when horror or the monster that's in the horror is more of a metaphor for something else, a struggle or a suffering that is sort of haunting the main protagonist. And it's not just like this big buff guy going like, I'm gonna skin your skin, I guess. But more so if it's just like the idea of grief, the idea of loss, the idea of, failing to live up to your own expectations, something like that. And you're like, hey, I know what that feels like. That's fucking terrifying. But what the beauty of it, I think, is like, because it relates to the human experience. And I think that's spot on. So taking pain, darkness, and horror, I think, was the secret sauce that I would take onto the demon designs for Malys. This one's named Demon_Suffocate. It was born from the concept of asphyxiation or drowning. I was fascinated by the idea of a creature born into suffering. Its greatest pain is something that it won't be able to remove itself from because it is designed to be that way, right? And this is like, I think, to me, quite unsettling and terrifying, and because it's the idea that like something born into pain knows only about pain and can like inflict it relentlessly. And I think that's what's so scary about it. It's just like, yeah, when something is hurting, it feels more frightening too because it's unpredictable. It'll inflict pain because pain is all it knows. And here we are turning that suffering into art. We take the feeling of being too much or being suffocated, being closed in, and we sort of take that feeling and emotion and how that sort of embodies in the spirit and how that manifests in ideas, and we sort of like use that and harness it and collect it into forming this little freak. But yes, I discovered that demons are more effective when you connect to them. The relatability is what makes the demons really unsettling to look at. Here's the next one, is one of my favorites. Demon_limbs. I named it because it has many long limbs, but that's not really the scariest part about her, is it? She's pitiful. She's almost pleading for you to help, but you can't. There's nothing you can do to help her. And that sort of unsettling feeling of being helpless, I think was another bit of secret sauce that we sort of tapped into in order to evoke feelings out of you. Yeah. Some more disturbing little, sad little arts that I did. Part 4, secret one, the point. What is the point? Why the hell do I do this? Painting for Malys brought me back to why I do it all in the first place. It's to connect. It's to express. It's the language for the heart. It's so I can paint something out into the world and say, that's how it feels. In 2021, I watched a comeback comedy special of one of my favorite comedians, a Netflix little movie called Inside. I watched a man go insane making a comedy special in a year under lockdown, and it was beautiful. When I finished watching, I muttered to myself, that was art. A few people have remarked that they know that I'm going through something rough when they see that I have the album on loop. I'm looking at you, Meredith. So many Slack messages being like, bestie, you should take a break. But I love them because when I listen to those songs, I hear him and I feel heard. I think that's what the beauty of art is. It's what art is to me. It connects us. In this day and age, we have plenty to wear our hearts heavy with. Times are hard. We're witnessing atrocities and the evils of man daily, and we're exhausted to our core. I'm not trying to say that making paintings and pieces will fix everything, but your next painting is not likely to stop a bomb. If you know a way to do that, let me know. I'm ready to serve. But I do think that your soul needs it. No matter the skill level, I believe that art belongs to everyone. It's such a beautiful language to connect our hearts together. It's the means for us to show the world, and more importantly, to ourselves, what wears heavy on our hearts and spirits. When I don't have the words, I had art be my words instead. I could take it out of me, and I look at it, and I say, that's how I feel. This is it, right? When I didn't have the words to say any of that, no poetry that I can eloquently speak, I can point at a thing and go, that's the one. and people relate to that. And I think you should do the same. When you can, hold the feelings that you have and try to draw them out onto the page. Think of ideas that resonate with the feeling and use them. Say if you're feeling sad, or like you're feeling, I don't know. Again, I'm not really good with words, but if you're feeling like lonely, for example, what reminds you of loneliness? Is it, is it just a single tree out in the plains? Is it a boat with none of its lights on? Find imagery in your head that links to the same feeling, and that's how you sort of can connect them together. What I'm saying is, this doesn't mean that you need to turn your suffering and hardship into joy and everything's good times forever, but to roll with to roll with the punches in order to survive instead of letting it eat at you. Exercising your demons, making these personal venting arts, I think is beneficial because, one, identifying the source is arguably the most important and powerful part, to be able to sense inside of yourself, instead of just being like, I'm just sad. Find what it is. Feel your heart rate go up. You're sweating a little bit. You feel yourself buckling in, and that's when you feel you're closer to what you're actually feeling inside. And then two, being able to draw it out and spend time considering and sitting with the feeling also helps a lot. You'll think, you'll be able to be comfortable. Well, not comfortable, but like sit with it and understand and feel it throughout instead of rejecting it outright. Really try to keep that door as open as possible. And three, creating distance from it to help it, to see it in front of you does wonders of feeling heard. Like screaming to Linkin Park, the catharsis of letting it out is really helpful. It's not going to like solve your problem, because obviously our lives are happening to us and we're in it. But I think being able to draw it out and have a look at it from the outside divorces it from being this like nebulous cloud of suffering that's inside your head and just like silently playing puppet master with your mind. And instead you can take it out and look at it, really look at it. It's kind of like art therapy, except I'm not an art therapist, so don't quote me on that. I've been very fortunate to be able to use what I've learned from my personal venting art to make Malys with a supportive team and wonderful directors, but I acknowledge that this is unlikely to be applicable to you and your projects. Even if you do have the opportunity, it's vulnerable work and may not be safe to harness under an iterative lens that a commercial setting often demands. My advice to you is instead to take this into your personal life, safe from the Sauron eyes of capitalism and into the nurturing home of soul and spirit. You like that one? My challenge to you is to take these points and select which ones you want to explore. Do one of them, do all of them, do it in any order. Just spend the time to reflect on yourself and make something. And make it ugly. Thank you. Do we have time for questions? 5 minutes, let's go. Any questions? Bada bing, but the light's really on me right now. I can't really see that well.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, because it's noticing from a lot of the art you showed in the presentation that you have this particular idea of like expressing pain through like demons and often like humanoid, or vaguely human demons. Do you think there's any reason that you're like attached or like interested in that kind of imagery specifically, that like that's your specific way of showing pain?
Yeah, interesting. That's a really good question. I don't think it's a thing that is like, this is the way to go or anything like that. I feel like it resonated with me because having that sort of humanoid body was sort of the vessel in order to express what was being inflicted upon me, or what I felt wasn't being inflicted upon me. It was my avatar in which I could relate to what was going on, like the sort of the ship out in sea and the storm is happening to it. I can then look at it as if it's like almost a mirror and see like, yeah, these things are happening to this vessel that I embody. And I think that's why those humanoid figures were my way of relating the thread of how it feels. And there may be times where like you make some abstract art of just like volcanoes erupting and scorching the sky, and that's how you feel. And that's fucking awesome, you know what I mean? It's to everyone's personal tastes, but yeah, that's a good question. Legend.
With making art for yourself,
Yeah.
where it's like you're just satisfying your inner critic versus, I guess, in games or when you're working in a team where you're almost getting like playtest response and feedback? Like, how do you balance the kind of, like people coming into essentially like an art gallery and like playtesting your, I don't know, it's kind of evocative.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really important distinction to make. What I say that when like art is for everyone, I really do mean at all sort of skill levels. For me, personally, I think that the feeling and the catharsis of letting it out and being able to find something or make something that sort of resonates as close as you sort of can is your own sort of success. I think the idea of it being iterated upon external forces is kind of that capitalist lens of like, if I make something, it has to be worth something. Do you know what I mean? And so what if the worth comes from just like, how closely can I make it feel like what I'm feeling? Away from, is it good? Can I sell it at a gallery? Does my team like it or anything? That personal, when you're making the personal art, it would be more about like, how closely did I feel like I achieved drawing it out of me? How well did I capture it maybe? You know, and even if not that, even if you're still, frustrated that it's not sort of happening the way that you want, all those small inches closer, just being like, but it felt good to be able to sit with that and to identify it and even just to like pave small moments, like even if it's just like a square that's red and just like, yeah, that's closer to what I was feeling. I think that meditative experience of sitting with that and sort of conjuring imagery is the majority of it, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Legend, icon.
Hi.
Hi.
You talked a lot about how doing the art for this game required you to actually touch really deep in yourself. Did you or the rest of the team have any precautions of looking out for each other as you did this, especially potentially for you as the artist, but also other members of the team as well, of like, we want to make sure that we're doing this in a safe way?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. I'm very fortunate that Summerfall tends to be a very communicative, community-based, so that everyone's like helping each other and supportive of one another. There were moments when some of the demons that I was making, we were edging a bit too close to something that was triggering to people, and I think the thing for that would be, and it's very important work to foster an environment in which everyone can be heard. Because, say, if we had someone who was junior who didn't feel safe enough to be heard, they just had to suffer through that, right? And so I think Summerfall did a wonderful job of just like embodying this sense of support for one another, that anyone from any level of our company could speak up and be like, that doesn't make me feel very good because it evokes this thing that I went through, or I feel it could be harmful to others in this way. And I would take that on board and I go, that's fucking awesome, good idea. Let's shift it a little bit. Because really, I'm talking about taking personal art, using that sort of edge that I've honed from, being fucked up with the art, and sort of and making something to evoke more feelings out of it. But it's a game, and it's something that people will be experiencing. I want to be able to toe the line and edge of it without breaching and going too far. And so having the team feel safe enough to communicate that and let me know like little blinkers if I'm starting to get a bit too far. We identify how it's getting too far and where we can take it from there, so that we still maintain that sort of dark and edginess of it, while also protecting people from potentially being hurt by it. Does that answer your question? Legend. Cool, and that's everything. Thank you for coming to my talk.